The townspeople called him the Mounted Man. No one knew who he was, where he came from, or why he chose to live in the wilderness, but his ability to find lost people was almost supernatural. Without maps, without technology, just following tracks. Where did this skill come from? Before we begin this mysterious story, tell us in the comments which city you're watching from. And if you believe stories of lost heroes should be told, hit that subscribe button. James Walker had been living alone in a small forest cabin on the mountain for 12 years. 48 years old, sun-bronzed skin, graying beard always unkempt, hands full of calluses. His eyes were blue but deep, as if they could see very far distances. His cabin was deep in the Colorado Rockies, a 3-hour hike from the nearest town. One room, simple but organized. No maps on the walls, no GPS, just a few old books, a radio, and a chair by the window where he could watch the mountains. Once a month, he'd come down to town. Always the same day, the 15th. He'd buy basic supplies from Hanson's general store, check for mail at the post office, then return without talking to anyone. His conversation was minimal. Good morning. Thank you. Good morning. That was it. He never asked questions, never gave answers. The townspeople respected him, but were also afraid, because there was something in his eyes, the look of someone who had seen too much, experienced too much. In town, legends were told about James Walker. Some said he was an ex-soldier. Others thought he was a fugitive. But everyone agreed on one thing. He had a supernatural ability to find lost people. In the last 12 years, 47 people had gotten lost in the forest. Hikers, mushroom hunters, sometimes even town children. Search and rescue teams would come. Search for hours, sometimes days. They wouldn't find them. But James Walker always did. How he got word was clear. Someone from town would hike up and notify him. James Walker never refused. He'd listen silently, nod, and take action. He didn't use technology. No maps, no phone. Didn't even carry a compass. He'd just head out, enter the forest, and follow tracks. Within 8 hours at most, he'd find the missing person and bring them back to town safely. He never gave explanations. Found them in the forest, he'd say. When asked, which direction, he'd say, north side. That was it. At the coffee shop, James Walker was always the topic of conversation. The man's like radar, said Barber Mike. I don't understand how he finds them. He's a ranger anyway, said Town Secretary Sarah. He's used to it. No way, said retired teacher Bill. This is something else. The man's like military. Very professional. Maybe he is, said shop owner Tom. He never talks. Nobody knows his past. But no one had the courage to ask, because there was something hard in James Walker's eyes. An expression that made it clear he didn't like being questioned. That October, everything changed. The town's two most beloved children went missing, 12-year-old Emma and her 14-year-old brother Tyler. Both had gone mushroom hunting and hadn't returned home by evening. The whole town was up in arms. The sheriff came. Search and rescue teams were called. Ice. A helicopter even came, but couldn't see anything due to the fog over the mountain. 48 hours passed. No word from the children. On the third morning, the children's father, store owner Jim Hanson, climbed the mountain. He went to James Walker's cabin. He knocked on the door. James, my kids are missing. Please help. James Walker didn't hesitate. When did they go missing? 2 days ago, they went mushroom hunting. Where were they last seen? At the pine forest entrance. Understood. Let me get ready. James Walker was ready in 10 minutes. Backpack, water, some food, first aid supplies. Nothing else. No map, no phone, no GPS. Jim Hanson wanted to come too, but James Walker wouldn't allow it. You wait in town. Get word if you want, but don't slow me down. But how will you find them? It's a huge area. I'll find them. James Walker entered the pine forest. Jim Hanson followed from a distance. What he saw surprised him. James Walker crouched down and examined very carefully. Then he stood up, looked in another direction. He crouched again. He was studying things on the ground. Footprints, broken branches, trampled grass. Then he determined a direction and began walking with confident steps. Jim Hanson gave up after following for half an hour. James Walker was too fast and moving with confident steps, as if he was following an invisible map. James Walker really was following a map, but this was a map that couldn't be seen with the eye. Tracks in the soil, broken branches, bent grass, changes in bird sounds, wind direction. Everything told him something. The children had initially gone the right way. The tracks were clear, organized. But after an hour, the tracks began to get confused. The children had gotten lost, panicked, and started running in random directions. James Walker stopped. He closed his eyes, listened. He listened to the sound of the forest. Then he opened his eyes again and headed in a different direction. The tracks were even more confused here. But it wasn't a problem for James Walker. Every footprint told a story. The children were tired, taking heavy steps. They had started stopping. There were resting traces. After 6 hours, James Walker found them. They were hiding among the pine trees in a small hollow. Both were shivering from cold, scared, but alive. "Emma! Tyler!" The two children looked up. When they saw James Walker, they were relieved. "Mister! We were lost." "I know. Don't worry, we're going home." James Walker gave the children food, put blankets over them. Then he calmed them. "Nothing to be afraid of. I live here. I know the forest very well." "How did you find us?" Tyler asked. "I followed your tracks." "But we went really confusingly. We ran. We turned around." "I know. But every step leaves a trace. I can read these traces." The return to town took 2 hours. James Walker brought the children home safely. The whole town gathered, applauded. The children's family was crying with joy. But this time, something different happened. People began asking questions. "James, what kind of ability is this? Where did you learn this? What training did you have?" James Walker tried to escape as usual. "I live in the forest. I'm used to it." But Jim Hansen insisted. "James, I followed you. This isn't a normal skill. Very professional. Very systematic." Town Mayor Robert also joined in. "James, you've been here 12 years. Nobody knows you. We don't know anything about your past." James Walker remained silent for a long time. People had gathered around him, waiting. He had saved the children. He couldn't escape the questions anymore. "I was military," he finally said. "When?" Jim Hansen asked. 1995 to 2010. 15 years. "What unit?" James Walker hesitated. He had never answered this question. "Special Forces. Search and Rescue Specialist." There was silence. No one spoke. "Which operations?" the town secretary asked. "Hurricane Katrina, 9/11 recovery, earthquake responses, missing personnel search operations, mountain rescue operations." "Why did you quit?" Retired Teacher Bill asked. James Walker's face changed. Pain appeared in his eyes. "In the last operation, we had losses. 4 people from my team. I couldn't find them." Everyone fell silent. "What was the operation?" Jim Hansen asked quietly. 2010 Afghanistan. 8 of our soldiers had gone missing in the mountains. Cross-border operation. They called us as search and rescue specialists." James Walker stopped, took a deep breath. "We searched for 72 hours. There was a blizzard. Visibility was 0. My team was following me. I chose the wrong path." "What happened?" Barber Mike asked. "Avalanche hit. On the path I chose. 4 of my friends were buried under the avalanche." James Walker's voice trembled. "I survived." They didn't. The townspeople were shocked. No one spoke. "Then I quit. I didn't want to track anymore. But here, living in the forest, when I see lost people..." His voice broke. "Accumulated guilt," said retired Teacher Bill. "You're trying to make amends." "Maybe," James Walker said. "I don't know. I just don't want anyone to get lost." Jim Hansen approached James Walker. "James, you're a hero. How many lives have you saved here?" 47 people, someone said. 47 families returned home because of you," the town secretary said. "Your friends were heroes too. They died doing their duty. You're still doing your duty." James Walker shook his head. "But I'm alive. They're dead." "You're alive because you need to be alive," Mayor Robert said, "to save other people." From that day on, the way people looked at James Walker changed. He was no longer the mysterious mountain man, but a heroic search and rescue specialist. But he himself didn't change. He still lives in the same cabin, still comes to town once a month, still loves the same silence. But now he talks with people a little more. The children began to love him. Sometimes they climbed the mountain to visit him, learning forestry. "Uncle James, how do you track?" they ask. "By paying attention," he says. "Everything tells a story. You just need to listen." Last month, an official offer came to town. The Search and Rescue Association wanted James Walker as an instructor. to give tracking training to young search and rescue specialists. I'll think about it, James Walker said. Why are you thinking? Jim Hansen asked. It's a great opportunity. Young people will come. There's a lot to teach them, but You what? I still haven't forgiven myself. Today, James Walker made his decision. He accepted the offer. The first course will begin next month. Why did you decide? The town mayor asked. I understood the day I found the children, he said. I can't change my past, but I can affect the future. In memory of your friends? Yes, they would want it too, for other people to be saved. James Walker now comes down from his cabin on the mountain to town more often. He's meeting young search and rescue specialists, making training plans. He still talks little, still keeps to himself. But now he has a purpose, to share his knowledge, to save other lives. Yesterday, the first training group came. 8 young search and rescue specialists. James Walker gave them tracking training in the forest. Tracking isn't just technique, he told them. It requires patience, attention, and most importantly, responsibility. What does responsibility mean? A young specialist asked. The track you follow means someone's life. You can't make mistakes, because your mistake could cost other lives. The young people listened carefully. They could see the experience, pain, and wisdom in James Walker's eyes. But what if you make a mistake? Another asked. You make mistakes. You're human. What matters is not giving up after the mistake, trying to make amends. That night in his cabin, James Walker slept peacefully for the first time in a long time, because he finally understood. You can't erase the past, but you can build the future. If you think this story left its mark on you, tell us your city in the comments and subscribe to help ensure that stories of quiet heroes like James Walker continue to be told. Sometimes the greatest rescue begins with rescuing yourself.